Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Blueprint. This podcast is about big infrastructure projects, but not in the way they're usually talked about. When a new project is announced, the conversation almost always sounds exactly the same. We hear about how ambitious it is, we hear about how impressive the engineering is, we hear about how much it's going to transform or change a city. But what we hear much less about is whether these projects actually make sense once you step back and look at them very carefully. Beyond the Blueprint exists to slow that conversation down. It looks at infrastructure not just as concrete and steel, but as a set of economic decisions. Decisions about where public money goes, decisions about what problems get priority, and decisions about which trade offs we're willing to accept, sometimes without even fully realizing it. The goal here isn't to praise infrastructure or to dismiss it outright. It's to evaluate it honestly, to ask what it really costs us, who benefits, who pays, and what risks we're willing to take on for the future. There was no better place to start off than Mumbai, and no better project to start than the Bombay Coastal Road. In Mumbai, infrastructure is never just infrastructure. It shapes how people move, where the people live, how long the daily life takes, and what parts of the city feel connected and what parts feel left behind. The Bombay Coastal Road is a 29.2 kilometer, 8-lane expressway running along Mumbai's western coastline. It connects Marine Drive in the south to Kandivali in the north, with large sections built on land reclaimed from the Arabian Sea. It's one of the most ambitious urban road projects the city has taken on in recent years, but it's also one of the most controversial. Supporters of the project argue that Mumbai has simply outgrown its existing road network. Congestion is severe, commutes are long, and traffic imposes real economic costs on the city every single day. From this perspective, a new high capacity corridor is not a luxury, it's just a bare necessity. But critics see this project very differently. They argue that the coastal road prioritizes private vehicles in a city where most people rely on public transport. They point to environmental damage, coastal reclamation, and the risk of locking Mumbai into a car centric planning for decades. That's what makes the Bombay Coastal Route such a powerful case study because both sides point to real concerns. The official stated goal of the project is to reduce congestion along Mumbai's western corridor and significantly cut travel times. Government estimates suggest that travel time reductions of up to 60 to 70% on certain routes. If those reductions are real and sustained, they matter economically. Congestion isn't just annoying, it has measurable costs. Before this project, estimates suggested that the average Mumbai commuter was spending over 90 hours a year stuck in traffic. That's like more than 2 full work weeks every year just spent not moving, being stationary. That time isn't free. It means you're reaching work later, you're getting home later, you're spending less time with your family, you're spending more time and money on fuel, and having less time to rest and less time for personal life. From an economic perspective, this is lost productivity and wasted resources. This is why time saving plays such a big role in evaluating road projects. Even when saving a few minutes per trip, when millions of commuters are involved, that adds up really quickly. This logic is exactly why official estimations project that the economic benefits are around 12 lakh crore rupees over the next several decades. 12.5 lakh crore rupees. That's more than you and I'll probably ever see in our entire life. And these numbers depend heavily on assumptions, so they shouldn't be taken blindly. The basic idea that reducing congestion has economic value is not controversial because the problem is that the benefits are only on one side of the story. The construction cost of the Bombay Coastal Road exceeds 13,000 crore rupees. That's public money. And once that money is spent here, it can't be spent anywhere else. This is where opportunity cost becomes very real. In Mumbai, the same amount of money could have been gone into expanding suburban rail capacity or improving metro consumption, improving drainage systems, for example, or investing in affordable housing or providing jobs to people. All of those alternatives also save time, improve productivity, and benefit a much larger share of the population. So the real question isn't whether the coastal road helps or not. It's whether it helps more than the next best alternative that wasn't chosen. That's a much harder question to answer. Things become even more complicated when we look at the side effects. Building the coastal road required large scale land reclamation that alters marine ecosystem, affects biodiversity, and directly impacts fishing communities whose livelihood depends on nearby shore waters. For those communities, these costs aren't abstract. They affect income, job security, and also long term sustainability. At the same time, many of these primary beneficiaries are car users who are relatively better off than other people. That imbalance matters, not because development should stop, but because it forces us to ask who the development is really for. To be fair, the project also creates wider benefits. If congestion improves, fuel use and emissions can fall. Traffic relief on one corridor can ease pressure on the other. Even people who never use the road may benefit indirectly if the city functions more smoothly overall. This mix of benefits and harms is what makes infrastructure economics so difficult to answer. A cost benefit analysis is meant to help with exactly this. In simple words, it compares everything we gain with everything we give up. But the main outcome depends heavily on the assumptions we make. One key assumption is how people respond to the new roads. There's strong evidence from cities all around the world that when roads get faster, people tend to drive more. Some switch from buses or trains to cars and bikes, and some others move farther away because commuting feels much easier. Over time, the traffic congestion comes back. If that happens, the time savings that justify the project begin to shrink while the costs remain fixed. Another issue that matters a great ton is maintenance. The coastal road faces salt exposure, weather damage, and heavy usage. Keeping them functional over decades is very, very expensive. If the maintenance is underfunded, performance drops. If the maintenance is fully funded, the long term costs rise. Either way, those costs matter. Financing also shapes risk. The Bombay Coastal Road is largely publicly funded. That allows it to exist, but it also means that the risk falls on the taxpayers. Taxpayers are you and I. The Mumbai already faces flooding, rising sea levels, and stronger storms. If climate risks are underestimated, and future repairs and adaptation costs could be very, very high. So, does the Bombay Coastal Road make economic sense? My honest answer is that it depends. If congestion relief lasts, if environmental damage is managed, and if long term risks are taken seriously, the benefits can greatly outweigh the costs. If not, the project risks becoming a very, very expensive mistake that the people of Mumbai and the government would soon live to regret. This is why infrastructure decisions matter. They shape cities long after construction ends. Infrastructure isn't just concrete and steel. It's about choices, trade-offs, and consequences. That's everything that Beyond the Blueprint is about. Thank you so much for listening. In the next episode, I'm going to break down another major project and examine its economics in the same way.